Well, hello, hello. We're back again
We are
after Zoom kind of kick us out.
back. It was like, you got to go.
Yeah, so we're back again with Crissie, and like I was saying earlier, she is an author and she wrote books that out of passion. And so I want to share with everyone about how you too can write a book about yourself because each of us has a story to tell. Just like Cressy, she also wrote a book because, well, she can tell you that. So go ahead, Chrissy, tell us what inspired you, what started, writing a book for you. What is it?
I'm back. Hallelujah. uh, so mine really, I had this book idea. I wanted to write a sci-fi book. And I was like, okay, Ohio, we have the crazy weather here. And I was like,
Mhm.
beautiful thunderstorm. I was like, this is the perfect setting for this sci-fi book that I want to do. And so I got up middle of the night and I was like, I'm gonna write this sci-fi book. And I always pray before I write. And I was like, let me put the words on the paper. And so I'm writing all night long and I'm not paying attention to anything I'm writing because I'm just in the mood, in the groove. And I went to bed, woke up next morning. I was like, this is not a sci-fi book at all. There's no sci-fi in here at all. And so I started reading it, and the book just, it happened for two reasons.
Mhm.
One, it was very cathartic for me. God knew I needed to write through some very traumatic experiences that happened in my life. And also, it was kind of a tribute to people that have come and gone from my life that I watched deal with certain issues.
Mhm.
And I always wanted them to get a different ending than what they got in life. And I thought, okay, I, kind of see where this book is going now. And so I ended up writing what I hoped were endings that would bring them closure. But it also was, I had to go what I call the pain pocket. So I write
Mm.
with a lot of emotion, lots of
What
emotion.
is, can you explain what is the pain pocket? So,
So the pain pocket is like this little place that I have where it's, everything that I've ever gone through that has been really traumatic in my life. It's just all surrounded by pain. Pain,
mm,
some violence in there. And this is just this little place I have down there that I reserve because I can pull my best work out on the shortest deadlines. And the higher the emotion level I have to hit myself,
mhm,
the better I'm going to pull from that pain pocket. Because when I go there, I'm not triggered in any way. I'm almost like supercharged and ready to be like, okay, I can hit emotion. Because I feel, for me, if I don't pull emotion out of myself when I'm writing, how are people going to get emotional when they're reading
right.
this book? I'm not writing nonfiction,
Mhm,
I'm writing fiction, and it requires people to go to this certain level. And so really it's drawing on all of the stuff that happened in my life. I got started dating very young and got married, and that just was not a good relationship. Just a lot of stuff happened that was very traumatic for me, and I didn't know how to leave all that stuff behind.
mhm,
And so I carried all of that. I burrowed myself in food and alcohol, and I became addicted to food. And I had a very high tolerance for alcohol at the time, and
mm,
I just didn't know how to deal with anything. And during that time, I contemplated suicide. It's not something you're proud of, but
mm,
when you don't know a way to escape, it's the way that you want to escape. You just
yeah,
don't, like, you're just like, what am I going to do? I don't know how to get out of this myself. I got myself
mhm,
here by not making great decisions. And now I'm stuck with what I have because of these decisions. And so that was very traumatic. And obviously I'm sitting here, so I did not do that. Um, but that was the
good.
first time I got introduced to my faith without actually knowing it. And so, I went through that, and, my mom had to come get me, and it was very traumatic. And I just saw this vision of this person, and I was like, what is happening here? I didn't have that type of spiritual gift. And I was like, I'm just not sure what's happening. And, he just said, this is not the life I have planned for you. And I am very curious by nature.
Mhm.
And so one, I was like, why am I not afraid of this person?
Mhm.
Why is he here? What does he want with me? And what in the world is this life that he is talking about? Because I would really like to have that life versus the
Mhm.
one that I have. And so, I went through years of counseling, and I moved away and came up here and just had that proverbial chip on my shoulder that I just didn't know how to unload. And so, what happens? I fell back into the same patterns that
Yeah.
I had back then. I just migrated right back to those because really that's what I knew. And you go to what you know, right? So that's
Yeah.
what I knew. And I knew within myself, like, this is just not going to work out well. It didn't work out the first time. It's probably not going to work out the second time. And so I got up here and started making some of the same decisions and found myself pinned against my house. And a man had come out from behind a parked car and pinned me up. And we all know how sexual assault goes.
Mm.
And so then we had that. And so now I'm back on this pain wheel. And,
Oh.
I've barely recovered from the first set of circumstances many, many years later. And now I'm back on the same wheel and still not knowing what to do. And, I had to, you know, call my sister and tell her I wasn't coming to church because something happened last night. And so
Mhm.
now I have all these same emotions again that I just don't know what to do with. And
So
I didn't know.
did you know the person?
I did not. And so I
Okay.
was at a community picnic, and
Okay.
it was getting dark, and I had left my house unlocked because, it was a small community, and something just said, like, you need to go lock your house. And so I went, and all I took were my keys. I didn't take my phone, didn't take anything else. Cause I mean, it was like 3 doors down from where I was. And I
Mhm.
turned around to, lock my door, and instantly the hair stood up on the back of my head in that. And I was
Oh
like,
my.
something's about to happen here. And next thing I knew, I was pinned up against the house, and it just, it was terrible. But I knew, like, if we went inside, one of us was coming out and one wasn't. And I wasn't sure which one that one would
Mhm.
be. I wanted it to be me. But by the glory of God, my neighbor came looking for something, which coincidentally was in her car, and so interrupted that. But then here I am dealing with the same kind of pain and all of that. And it's a lot of pain, it's a lot of anger, it's a lot of shame, it's fear. I was not a fearful person by nature, and now I was afraid of everything. I didn't want to be in society, I didn't trust
Mhm.
anybody, I was very angry at the world. And I was angry at everything. And at that time, I didn't realize, like, I had still escaped with my life. And that is a plus because apparently it has some purpose that I'm not really sure what it is at this time. And so back again, I went seeking help and went through all of that, went through trainings and support groups and got all that done. And I'm like, okay, now I know how to handle my triggers. And, I had to reintegrate myself back into
Mhm.
society. How do you go into a society that you're actually afraid to be in?
Yeah.
And I'm an outgoing person by nature. I love people, I love talking to people, I like being around people, I like to go do things. And I didn't know how to deal with that because I didn't want to do any of that stuff. I just wanted to curl up in my bed and not be here anymore. And so I was like, that cannot happen because, what's the purpose? What is my
Mhm.
purpose at this point? And so I had all this pain, and, I did the journaling and I did all that, but I didn't really know how to just laser focus the pain and
Mhm.
figure out what positive can I get from all of this pain in my life. And so, it was just like I had missed writing at that time. I hadn't written in a long time because life took over.
Mhm.
And the idea of the sci-fi book came to me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this book. And, Thunderstorm, great setting, great story, which I still haven't written. It's still in
Mhm.
there. But it didn't turn out to be that at all. It just wasn't. It was a book about letters that people wrote to God about troubles that they
Mhm.
had and stuff they were experiencing, and all this pain and feelings that they had that they didn't know what to do with. And I started to see, like, oh, okay, here's a way to channel. Like, I can get back into writing again, and I can channel because I I write with a
Good.
lot of emotion. Yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
So what
I'm
is the
the
title of that?
Oh, so that is my book back there. It's called Letters to My Father. I
Oh,
published it in 2019. And then the pandemic came, and well, there went all the stuff with that. And so
uh-huh.
now we're moving and grooving again, and we're working on it. There's 2 screenwriters writing it for TV. And so it's just, woo, it's just
Wow.
having a good time out there by itself. And so that's a blessing. But I had all this and I'm like, how do I channel all this? And
Mhm.
so I have this idea that I'm gonna do this book. And I did it, for me, it was haphazardly. I was just like, hey, it's done. I'm cool. It's good. I did what God told me to do. I'm moving on. And but that didn't turn out to be the case because they kept wanting a rewrite and a rewrite and a
Mhm.
rewrite. And I knew what they wanted, and my editors knew what they wanted. But I didn't want to go to that pain pocket I was talking about. So the
Yeah.
pain pocket is where I pull all of those emotions that I had before, of all that pain and shame and anger and fear, and there's positive ones in there too. So I had all of this and I'm like, man, I can pull out some really great material when I go
Mhm.
here. But I don't want to go here because now I have to go
Yeah.
back into those times in my life and relive all that stuff. And I was at a healthier place in my journey now, that I knew that I could control my environment and I could sense the triggers and I knew what to do. But I just essentially threw a temper tantrum. I just didn't want to do it. I'm like, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to have to go to those parts of my life. For
Mhm.
me at that time, I viewed them as failures. I failed at those. I've been married twice and I'm divorced twice. So I failed at marriage because, I didn't know how to love myself enough to love another person, because I had been through all of this and everything about me changed at that time. And so they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I'm like, you know what? Fine. I'm just going to do it.
Mhm.
I'm going to go to this pocket and I'm going to see what I pull out of here. And so I went there and, it took a whole weekend. And I was like, I'm just going to redo them. I'm going to redo them the way people want to hear them and read
Mhm.
them. And so I did that and sent it off to my editors. And they're like, now we're here. They're like, now we've moved from like coffee table book to, like Oprah bestseller book. And I was like, well,
Oh.
that's a great progression.
Uh-huh.
That's great. And I sent it off to my publisher and they also liked it. And, that's just how it came to be. And I think the most was, it's not so much shame that I had to go back there. It's, I didn't know if I was ready to be able to revisit those times of my
Mhm.
life, and not have the same feelings or emotions that I had before, because I couldn't see how far I progressed in my own journey. And,
Mhm.
I think maybe you're just not supposed to, because you'll probably just stop if you realize, wow,
Mhm.
I've progressed this far. And people said, you're doing great, you're moving along. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to go faster. I want to move more. I have things I want to do in my life. And so I had to slow down and sit in this window of pulling
Mhm.
this book to where it needed to be. And I did. And, it turned out to be very beautiful. And all that, remembering when I wanted to commit suicide and my mom had to come get me, and just,
Mhm.
that's not something you want your mom to see. And not so, but,
Yeah.
and then, when you get assaulted, that's what you want. You want to leave this world. But I knew that there just wasn't a way,
Mhm.
not that way anyways. I wasn't taking that way out because, there was a purpose spoken over my life. And the funny thing is, like, the tagline we have now is when God's purpose rose to meet my pain, then the journey began. And that's where
Mm.
the meat of the book journey began. And so God gave me this gift and this talent, and I want to share it with the world, but I also
Yes.
want to help other people come along.
Mhm.
And there's other writers. You have this gift, you have this talent. It's not meant just for you. It's meant to be shared with people. And so I share with
Right.
the world through my books and my stories and my interviews and those things. And then to other writers, I help them along. I'm not picky on the genre I'll help people with. There are a few that
Mhm.
I won't do, but if you have a story and you want it to be told, then the world needs to hear it.
Yeah.
The world needs to hear stories of people that have gone through very traumatic, very painful things and came out on the other side to survive and learned how to
Mhm.
thrive again. That is what I really want people to understand. You can go through all of that stuff and you can still come out on the other side, and you can be a different person. You essentially can reinvent yourself to be
Mhm.
what you believe you're supposed to be at this point in time. I
Yeah.
think we put so much pressure on ourselves to be these things that we're not, that we forget to be who we're actually meant to be.
Right.
Society doesn't help. They have all these standards that you're supposed to meet. And, when you reach that point in your life and your journey and your walk where you say, it doesn't matter what you think I should be or what you want me
Right.
to be or what you want me to do. I'm doing what I was directed to do by the God I believe in. And that's what
Exactly.
I'm going to do. And if you don't like it, you can wave as the train goes down the track and catch me on the way back around. Like
I
that's where
like
I
that.
got to, like you're gonna get criticism. You just can't let it derail you. You say thank you. You take it with just
Mhm.
like a compliment. You take them
Yes.
both and you say thank you, and you just keep on going, because if you stop every time someone doesn't like what you've done, you will never finish what you started.
I
And that
totally
is
agree with that.
yeah, that's a travesty.
Yes.
That is an absolute travesty.
Yes. And a lot of people, yeah, like a lot of people would stop and,
Mhm,
you know, let themselves be affected by
mhm.
somebody's. I mean, come on. If that person doesn't like what you do, so be it,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
because
I
there,
told
there's
myself
times too, like there's times that we don't like somebody's, right? So
right.
what's the difference?
I'm like, I don't want to be the one to derail that person. And I have survived so much more than just criticism that
Mhm.
someone gives, that, you just got to keep going. No matter
Yeah,
what, you have to keep going. And that's
right.
important. I think more people need to speak out about,
Mm,
people don't need to know all the gory details and all of that. But,
right.
I say there's a story in everything.
Mhm.
Everything there is a story in. People just need to rise up to be the ones that'll tell the story and tell it
Yeah.
in a unique way.
Mhm. And
Sometimes the
you're
story
such
doesn't
an
change. Yeah.
you're such an inspiration because
Thank
as
you.
you tell your story, people can see that they too can be just like you
Mhm.
to inspire someone else. Because you
Yes.
alone, you're just one. And if you
Mhm.
inspire maybe 1,000 or 1,000,000, then they too can, because there's so many people in this world, right?
Right.
So they can reach out more to those you cannot reach out.
That's
So
true.
that's the beauty of sharing their story, and your story uh, will be helping them to, okay, she shared her story, then I'll share my story. And so she can reach more people, right? So that's
That's right.
actually, that's like the goal of this YouTube channel, because a lot of people, there's, I mean, there's billions of
Oh,
people,
yes.
and it's so hard to reach them, by one person. So
Right.
the best way is to help someone, and then that person will do that, then it will just multiply.
It will. I say you have to, you got to leave a legacy, whether you have children or not. You have a
Mhm.
legacy to leave to this world. And only you can determine what that legacy is.
Right.
No one can tell you what it is. It's got to be what you can give
Mhm.
back that can last for generations. And for me, that's writing, helping people. There's so many ways to help people that are just not financial. That just, I
Mhm.
wish people need to stop thinking it's only financial. There are so
Right.
many ways you can help other people. In
Right.
some ways, it is more important to help than actually through financially. And you have
Mhm.
to decide, what am I going to leave this world? When I leave, what do I want people to remember? I want them
Mhm.
to remember these books in the attempt to help people and just love people. We're here just to love people. Period. There's nothing
Yes.
after those words. It's you love people. And I got some of the best advice I ever received. One of my friends told me this after, people had left my life. She said, "Why is it that when people leave our lives, we automatically look to ourselves as the defect without ever stopping to realize that it could be the person leaving your life.
Right.
And she told me that like a decade ago.
Mhm.
So I have always kept that. I don't focus so much on the people that leave my life because their season has come to an end, or
Mhm.
they're not meant to be there, or we brought them there and they're a detriment to where we're going. And it's not saying anything bad about any of these people, but not everyone is meant to come with you on the
Right.
journey. They're just
Right.
not. There's not enough room in the train for that. And you have
Mhm.
to be comfortable with people coming and going in your life and not having that emotional attachment when they walk out the door.
Mhm.
It's not saying you cut all the emotion out. Obviously, you're going to grieve if you're very close to these people and they leave, or they're
Mhm.
taken from you, they die, and you're just not ready for that. But you
Yeah.
still have to keep going. My
Yeah, it's
brother
actually,
died. Yeah, he
yeah.
died last year
Oh,
unexpectedly. And I went through 9 months of grief where I didn't want to do anything. I
oh,
didn't want to get out
sorry.
of the bed. I got up and did like the day-to-day emotions and all of that, but I really wasn't living. And then I was like, I need to take my own advice. And I got to get back out there, because if it's not going to be you, who's it going to be?
Right. Right.
Who's going to do it if it's not you?
That's
And
true.
so that got me through. And I was like, okay, I got to get back in the game. I rode the bench long enough, and now it's time to get back in the game and get this stuff going. And so that's the big thing, the spoken and the written word, they're very powerful things. Words are
Mhm.
weapons. And you, as a writer or an orator, you get to choose how you're going to use them. You can
Mhm.
use them to bless people in positive ways, or you can use it to destroy people. That's clearly your choice and your choice
Mhm.
alone as to what you're going to do with it.
Yeah. I just want to add to what you said about being attached to, uh, material like money.
Hmm.
It's actually freeing to be not attached to anything,
Hmm.
because then you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have
Right.
to, oh, my beautiful dress. Oh, I have to have it. No, if you are, yeah, you can enjoy it, but not to the point where you cannot live without it, because it's not true. You can't live without some
Right.
things. I mean, you can still live without anything, you know,
Right.
but you live accordingly, like day by day, and
Hmm.
and it's 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 just the way you look at things, like your mindset, you're thinking that, oh, I have to be because of this.
Hmm.
If you change it to the idea that you're just you and you're happy
Right.
to be you,
Yeah.
and that's it,
Yeah.
you know? So
You're
it's
you.
different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No one can do you like you could do you. So you need to figure out who you are. You were
Right.
built to be unique, and
Uh-huh.
that you were given talents and you're given gifts, and they're
Mm-hmm.
for you and you alone. You don't try to ride the tails of somebody else's talent. You have your own. Once you figure
Yes.
out what it is, you have to go,
Mm-hmm.
and you really do. You're right. I love what you said. You have to chase everything with essentially blinders on. You cannot let the things happening in society and distract you, because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of stuff in this day and age are distractions. They'll
Oh,
distract
yeah.
you from what you're supposed to do. Just like our earlier one, I come back and said, hey, the devil's all up in my business tonight. Like, it's just, this
I
stuff
know.
happens, and you just have to be cool about it. But you have to be so focused and have
Mm-hmm.
blinders on, because every minute of every second of every day you can be distracted.
Yeah.
And then human nature is all about temptation. And you have to decide, what am I going to be tempted by?
And to
The stuff.
always, just to always keep that faith, because
Mhm.
if you're looking at one thing, your faith, just having that faith.
Mhm.
Either some people don't believe in God, which is, for me, it's fine, but
Right.
having faith in something or whatever it is that you think can
Mhm.
help you, you focus on that and you will be able to do great things.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Just like
I
you, I mean,
I know.
Just talking about you, how you overcame so much. That's a lot, you know.
Yeah.
You actually, as I was saying earlier, that you kind of inspired me because of what you just told me, and I was like, wow, you know, I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm inspired by
I
by.
know, like your instincts to survive. So a lot of people just are like, oh, that's nice, but that is truly a skill.
Uh-huh.
When you are when you survive deeply painful things and you come out on the other side, you have this survival instinct about you that
Mm,
like that didn't kill me then. I can handle a lot of stuff now. And you just have this will to survive and see things through, and you become resilient and you're able to bounce back quicker, and you learn how to deal with things. Like I'm a very analytical thinker. I didn't used to be, but
mm,
I learned that I have to take emotions out of decision making because
right.
one, that's not healthy. It doesn't benefit anybody. And usually 9 times out of 10, you're going to regret that decision when you have time to sit down and think about it. And
Yeah.
you're like, I probably shouldn't have did what I did. And so, but I had to learn that. Like I
Um,
am the way I am now, but it took me years to get
mm,
here. And I think in this day and age, we want to just hurry up and get there, that we don't stop along the way to realize the things we're supposed to learn. You need to learn about yourself,
mhm,
know yourself, and know that, I come from a very traumatic past. And I tell people there's different levels of love. There's love, and then there's what I call the trauma person love. You love on a different level, especially
mhm,
when your knowledge base of love is surrounded in pain and violence. You love
right.
on a different level. You keep part of yourself back. And I think that's natural myself. I just say, I love you to the best of my ability. I love you. And that has to be enough. And if it isn't, then that's
Mhm.
all I have to give. And either you take it or,
Yeah. Well,
or you
kind
don't.
of,
It's your
I
choice.
want to add to that because when you say I love you, it's not one way. You know,
Right.
it has to be both ways. Like
Hmm.
because if it's not, then there's no connection, I
Right.
say.
Hmm.
So it's good to keep giving love,
Hmm.
and if someone gives it back, it's good. And if someone doesn't, then it's
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
you know?
I
So
agree. Our human, I think the greatest human need we have in life is to know that we are loved and we matter to somebody, or we matter to a cause, or
mhm,
something bigger than ourselves, a mission, but we matter. So we need to know we matter to
yes.
somebody, and we
Mhm,
need to know that we're loved.
mhm.
And
And that's why
that
anybody's story matters.
that's
Whatever
right.
your story is about, your story matters because you matter
That's
too.
right. Your story is your life song to this
Right.
world. And you
Yes.
get to choose what it's going to sound like, what it's going to say, but somebody somewhere needs your story. And if
Hmm.
you can't see yourself as doing your own story, then you find someone that will help you bring that story to life.
Hmm.
And
We can
then
help
you,
you with that, right?
right, we certainly can help. we know
That's
how
why
to
that's
do
why
those
we're
things.
here, right? We're
We
here
are.
because we're trying to help anyone. You know, like if you're struggling with something, each of our guests is
Hmm.
going sharing their story because their story could be something that would help you see through something.
Right.
You know, each person has their story. So like you sharing your story, someone may pick up something and, oh, okay, now I know what to do. And that's a good thing. You know, even just helping one person is good enough. But of course, we want more people because we want this
Right.
world to be a beautiful place to live where,
Hmm.
everybody's helping others. And that would be really wonderful
I
to have
know.
a world like that.
It would be such a change of pace. It is true. Like there's so much beauty, and your story doesn't have to be like a blockbuster. It just needs to be your story.
Mhm.
Not every I say this. There's different levels of success, and you have to choose which one you want. So you have society's idea of success is more money, more influence, more. That's what society teaches us. It's more. That's how you become successful.
Yeah.
And then you have the kingdom view of success, which is you don't need more, you need to be less.
Mm-hmm.
So then your story can be more. And then it's about affluence,
Mm-hmm.
affluence versus influence. And that's what it is. And that's the first thing. You got to decide which road you want to take for success. Because,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in the writing world, there's not a lot of financial success, but there's so much other success that you can have.
Right.
And
Right.
that's when you just decide this is the one I'm going to do. And, for me, it's always about kingdom success, giving back, helping other people, and
Mm-hmm.
just letting them come to shine, because everybody has a light that needs to shine. Everybody goes through stuff, and there is always someone out there that can tell you, this is my story of how I got through this stuff that I dealt with. And, I'm an expert on my own life, and I know how I did it. Doesn't mean that's going to work for you,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe it's the
But we can
idea.
help, like your
Right.
expertise, whatever you're expert
Sure.
at, you can help someone because you see it differently. You have a different perspective and they have a different way of looking at things. So if you put it together, then you have a better way of looking at things, right?
Yes.
So
I agree.
yeah, thank you. And I'm really inspired by you, by
Thank you.
everything that you said. So I was gonna ask you, like, you mentioned you're writing a second. Oh, you said it's already published.
So
It's
yes,
already
I
published.
have Letters to My Father, which is being
Oh, is
written
that the
for.
one? Oh,
That's
okay.
so that's my solo book. That's the one that is being currently, two screenwriters are writing it for a TV adaptation that we're going to try to
Oh.
bring it to TV.
Mhm.
Then I just last week did a devotional coloring book. I thought I would delve into that world. It turned out to be a little more difficult than what I thought it was going to be, but it was
Mhm.
also really fun to do a devotional
Oh.
one, because I tell people this is not your ordinary coloring book. You're going to color, and then you're going to devote some time to thinking about things,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
great. And then I co-wrote a book with someone that is daily direction for women in business. And I
Mhm.
just finished up an anthology on fearless living. And so now I'm going back into my solo stuff, and I am going to write series on pet grief. So the loss of your pets, but told from the pet's perspective of
Mhm.
having to leave their humans
Mhm.
behind. And so I thought that would be really cool, because a lot of people struggle with that. And then,
Right.
I have some other things up in this mind of mine. It's just one at a time. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I have those coming in the hopper. I'm working on my solo stuff now. So it took me 8
Good.
years to write Letters to My Father,
It took you
and
8 years.
8 years to write
Oh.
that book
Oh.
from
Oh.
start to
Okay.
put
Okay.
it on the shelves. Yep, 8
Mhm.
years. It won't take that long for the others. I know what I'm doing now. That was half of the battle there.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I know. I just think. Oh wow. Yeah. I mean, I I get it. I mean, it's painful when you're reliving those
Mhm.
pain again, and sometimes you just have to wait till the time you're ready,
Yep.
and then you can dive into it. And it doesn't really. I mean, nobody tells you or anybody to do it right away.
Right.
It's you. You are like the master. Like you said, an expert of your life. So
Mhm.
you make a decision based on how you feel or what you think that is best for you, because you want to be a friend to yourself, not
Right.
to be a
That's
you
true.
know that's the most important thing, is to be a friend to yourself.
Yes.
That's being like a self love, that
Mhm.
you need to make sure that you are being heard, that you know yourself, and that will open up so many things to
Yes.
understanding and just having a better uh, perspective in life and
Right.
fulfillment, contentment, everything like that. So, for someone that would like to write as a book, what is the first step they need to do?
Well, you definitely need to know the concept or
Mm,
think you know the concept, like letters, it switched in midstream, but definitely know the concept of what you want to do. Essentially, like what genre do you want to write in is a good place to start. And then when
mhm,
you have your genre, then you just come with the idea. This is what I want to write about.
mhm.
And then I just tell people, this is crazy. This is like my tagline. As a writer, you just like puke it out on paper. Like it just poo comes from your mind
Um,
down onto the paper. And then always send it to someone else to read.
mhm.
Because as a writer, what you tend to do when you're reading your own stuff is you read it the way you want it to go, which may not be the way it is on paper.
Yeah.
And so you have, a close confidant to you read it. Do, be careful about who you send stuff to,
Right. Right.
and then take their feedback, good or
Mhm,
bad, and then you start again. So how I structure my stories is I know the overall arc of the story I want to do. Like I want to
mhm,
tell a book that deals with this. And then first thing I do is I write my ending first, which is
mm.
not very common. And the reason I do that is because I want to know where I need to get to. 9 times out of 10, it's not the ending that ends up in the book because it varies and changes as you're going along with the story.
Right.
But I write the ending first to keep myself on target. This is where I want to get to. Now I just got to
That's a
figure out how to
good
get there.
tip. I That's the
Yeah.
first time I've heard that you. But it's like what you call that? Like reverse.
Hmm.
You know,
Yep.
something with a reverse.
I write it
So.
in reverse.
Mhm, mhm,
And then after that, what I do is then I think of my characters. But I also do that very differently because I won't pinpoint my characters down by knowing, their gender, their race, and their characteristics. I start with a name. Like I have this character. I
mhm,
know I want her to be female and I want a name. So I try to think of like a name that I want. And then I go out and look up Italian meanings, Latin meanings, different meanings of what that name means. And then if I like it, I'm like, oh, that's my character. And then I start to build my character based off of what their name actually means. They'll have different attributes, they'll have different characteristics, their personalities will be different. And that usually changes from when I first start out because I'm like, oh, I want this many people. And then I dive right in. I have my
mhm.
characters, I know what I want them to do. Now I just got to structure it. And I just start writing. There is no rhyme or reason when I first start. I just put it down on paper. If I want to write about John today, then I pull out the paper for John and I just write. Like, this is where I want John to go. I want him to be in a car. I want him to be doing this. And then I get all of that together. And then I start to seek out quiet areas, which
Mhm.
is usually the quiet rooms in the libraries where there is absolutely no noise, no
Okay.
distractions. Put your headphones on, plug in your
Mhm,
laptop, and you get grooving. And
mhm.
then I just write. I write and write and write. I overwrite. So I normally have to cut things out of my books because they're
Oh,
much longer
wow.
than what I want them to be. And so then I start cutting out and just try to find the guts. And that's what works for me. So I structure a lot of my books off of the actual characters. Who can I pull the emotion out of based off of what
Uh-huh.
I want them to do? And then I know the setting that I want them to be in. And then the book just kind of starts to come together. But I have different notebooks for every story I'm writing. It has its own notebook.
Mm.
And if I'm writing a story and just say it's about thunderstorms, or I don't read a lot of stuff that has to deal with that. I don't read a lot of like stories about that. I'll do research like patterns and all of that. but I don't read a lot of what's going on around that because I don't want any outside influence to come into my writing where
Mm-hmm.
I may be pulling stuff or ideas from other places that aren't necessarily mine. And so
Right.
when I'm writing about that, I don't read any books that are like that. And when I wrote letters, I didn't read for a long time because I did not want to be influenced by outside. Now, obviously, you have to do your research,
Mm-hmm.
whatever your material is, you need to go out and research. I just don't read a lot of published or fan fiction work dealing
Mm-hmm.
with the subject that I'm writing on because you know how it is, your brain is like a sponge. And so it
Mm.
just absorbs and absorbs and absorbs. And so you're going to have this stuff in here and at some point it's going to make its way on to the piece of paper. And
Right.
so I just don't do that. And for me it works because I don't want an outside influence. I want it all to be my authentic self coming
Mm-hmm.
with this story. And then I just go and I have my own editors, and as I'm going I send it to them and I tell them I want the truth, don't sugarcoat it, tell me the truth. Because here's the thing, you can do 100 books and 99 of them will be great. And then you have one that is not so great that you put out because you thought it was awesome. And at the end, people are going to remember the one versus the 99 that you did. And so I
Oh, yeah,
always say, I want the
that's
honest
right.
truth. If you don't like it and I need a rewrite, you need to say it needs a rewrite. I may not at that time decide to
Mm-hmm.
rewrite it, but I also won't send it out for final stuff until I have my group that I send my material to and they read it and they all
Mm-hmm.
give the honest feedback. And then I just weigh that. And if something they say is like, ooh, if I get any check in my spirit about something they've said, I pull the pen back out and I
Mm-hmm.
go to where they said, and I just have to pull myself out as the writer and engage myself as a reader. And, is this what I wanted to say?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a long process. I tell anybody, it's not like you wake up and you got a book the next day. You may have the idea the next day, depending
Yeah.
on what you're writing, like journals and coloring books, and that those don't tend to take as much time as what a story
Mm-hmm.
does. And then however you want it, when I'm finally satisfied with it, then I will send it out to
So do
see
you
if I'm
reread it like over and over again to kind of
I do.
feel feel
Mhm.
the that very moment of what's going on?
Yes. I'll
Oh.
reread it and check it. And if I cannot pull the emotion out myself, if I'm not emotional reading what I'm writing, I need to go back to the drawing board. Because if
Mm-hmm.
I can't get emotional, now obviously we're talking about books, articles, and that's a different thing. But if I'm
Yeah.
not getting emotional by what I'm writing, I
Yeah.
can't expect the reader to get emotional
Right. Right.
by reading what I wrote
Exactly.
when, yeah. And so you have to know that. You have to know your style. That's my style. I love putting a lot of emotion in books because
Mm-hmm.
I want to, hook you in with the first part, and then I want to leave you in that pain pocket, and then I'm going to drop you out at the end. And it may not be an easy drop, but I'm going to bring you out on the other side of it there. But that works for me, and I won't change my style of writing.
Yeah, actually,
I
that's good. I kind of
Yeah.
like, by the way you tell me, it's kind of get somebody's attention or
Mhm.
get them curious, and they would probably read more because, hey, what's happened? Like, I want to know the end.
Right. It's
That's
like
that,
you get that book that you start reading at 9 o'clock at night, and you
and
you
you
know you
don't
got to work
stop.
the next day, and you're drawn in, and you're like, I can go another 3 hours. I only need 2 hours of sleep. And by the time you know it, it's time to get up for work and you haven't even slept yet. Uh, those are my favorite kind of books, the ones that I
Yeah.
don't want to put down. And then I have to, chastise myself like, you actually do need to sleep. Like, you will not function without it. And so you need to put that down and pick it back up. But I'm also excited the next day or the next 2 days when I pick it back up to be like, oh, we're back in the story again. And you're right back in there. And
Hmm.
that's beautiful. I said I
Yeah.
can read with the best of them. Just as I'm getting older, I require some sleep. Not
No,
like my younger days where you could pull all nighters and
yeah.
be done. Now you're like, I'm gonna need at least 4 hours sleep.
Yeah. So, last question
Mhm.
about writing a book, since we're already kind of talking about it? Or would it, do you prefer a self-publish, or someone with having a publisher?
I get this question a lot.
Mhm.
I myself, so I did letters as what they call a hybrid now, but I self-published with a publishing house.
Mhm.
Because that was what I wanted, and that was my very first book that I tried to get published,
Mhm.
and I got it published, and was a little feat in itself. And granted, it took a lot of work, but I did. Now I actually prefer to self-publish without any publishers, like traditional publishing houses.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is I want to have control of my story,
Oh
and
yeah.
I want all
Okay.
my rights. It's my baby. I'm not giving
Yeah.
the rights to anybody.
Yeah.
And so I want to reach as many people as possible. The only drawback to self-publishing is you are also your own marketing department.
Yeah.
And so you have to either be
Yeah.
really good at marketing or know people that know how to market, or because you got to get it out there. People have to know it's
Yeah.
out there. But I still prefer the self-publishing, and you can self-publish with publishing houses, and
Mhm.
they have their own editors and they can global distribute it for you. And so that's what I look for. Like my coloring book I did through lulu.com, which is an online publisher. They're
Mm.
not really a publisher, they're a printer. So you publish it under yourself and then they print all of it for you. But you have full control of your story and your rights. And so a
Mhm.
lot of that, with
Yeah.
traditional publishing houses, you don't always get to keep that.
Right.
And
That
I
I heard.
won't, yeah, I won't give
I
that right up.
Yeah, I heard that a lot too with the publishing house. You don't end up like you don't own your
Mhm.
work,
Right.
but
You
it's your
wrote
work.
it, you did it,
Yeah.
and but you may not own it. And so
And
I'm just not for that.
actually there I interviewed someone too who wrote a few books, but she told me that she actually published it with a publisher,
Mhm.
but she never sold a book.
That can
And I
happen.
was and I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, I couldn't believe it, because you pay someone and then you publish the book, which is good. But what happened? I
Yeah.
mean, it's a question like, why are you publishing a book and then don't sell a book?
I
I mean,
know it's hard. You essentially to sell your books, you need to sell them yourself. You need to go to book clubs,
yeah.
libraries, submit it to the libraries, church
But
groups.
I thought the publisher includes that, like marketing. They do the marketing for you.
Traditional publishers, when they sign you to a contract,
Mm-hmm.
generally you will get the marketing. If you self-publish through a traditional publisher, then no, you are the one doing everything. You're your own publicist, you're the marketing department, you're the
Okay. So
purchasing
maybe
department.
I misunderstood what she said, because I just did not get the concept of publishing. Like, I think she published maybe 5 books,
Mhm.
but she said she never sold a book. And I
Yeah,
was like, wait a minute, why are you paying person for I mean, I mean,
right.
it's not free. If it's
No, it's
free,
a
okay.
substantial cost.
Huh?
It's a substantial cost.
Yeah, I mean, if it's free, I mean, okay, I don't care if nobody buys my book, but I paid for this book
Right,
and I expect something in return. I mean, it doesn't have to be big, but at least you
right.
see like the fruit of your labor, kind
Yeah.
of.
Some
So
of it is
anyway,
the keywords that they pick when they put it on like Amazon or Barnes and Nobles. And, when you go into the global distribution, you have to pick keywords for
mm-hmm.
searches when people are searching for books. And so sometimes they may just have the wrong keywords or put it in a category that you necessarily wouldn't have put your book in. And, they have people that know what they're doing, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, at this point in my author journey, I'm all about self-publishing. I like to publish with different self-publishers. One,
Mm-hmm.
that's a way for them to get their name out there. And
Mm-hmm.
and two, the cost is less when you self-publish versus when
Mm-hmm.
you go the other way. Because you're
Oh, okay.
you're paying for
Oh,
their
okay.
layout
So,
services and their cover, and then you pay their editors, and then you pay a global fee if you want it to go to global distribution so it can be sold anywhere in the world. You have to pay for those things. Those are not free.
wow.
They're not
Wow.
free. And
So
so
much to
you're
learn
paying,
from
right?
you.
You're paying all of this, and and people publish with certain large companies, and I'm not always for that either.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to do your research, because if you purchase with particular people or you publish with them and they have their own restrictions, you can box yourself into where you cannot put your book anywhere but that particular place. And I am
Wow.
not a fan of that at all.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
If
your work.
yeah, if you're only in one place,
Mm-hmm.
then how are people going to find you if they don't go to that
Right.
place?
Yeah.
I built my own website because I was like, I'm going to run my own
I know.
online
I
store.
look at your website. I look at your website. I said, how did she do that high thing?
Wix.com.
Wix that have that?
Yes. I just pull up a template and
Uh-huh.
I built my website off of a template.
It's
And
really
then
nice.
every couple months I'll go in and be like, oh, I need to update this. And I just go into their templates again and see what else they have. Cause I really love that high thing. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I need
I
to,
love it.
yeah, my front page didn't look like that for a long time. And so I was like, that's really cool. The little thing that says hi. And so I did that, but I'm a one person show. I do my own designing. I use Canva a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
do my own social media posts, and it's all about templates.
Yes.
You get the template, you put your stuff into the template, you throw
Mm-hmm.
your logo on there. You shouldn't be sending any of your stuff out without your branded logo on it.
Right.
Another thing for authors,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you
Yeah.
get a logo.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and
so much from you.
I know. Make sure it has some type of meaning that resonates with you, and
Uh-huh.
don't do it specific to one book, because then you're going to
Mhm.
need multiple logos if you're doing that. So, mine is just my name, a set of angel wings behind it, and then a feather pen with some droplets of ink. For me, that was, the feather pen is for writing.
Mhm.
Obviously, my name is my name. And the angel wings are about my faith and my connection to God, and how that's
Yeah.
how I receive a lot of ideas for stories, and also the will to keep going. And then,
Mhm.
I am a fond lover of hot pink, and hot pink and black go really well together. And I said, I'm gonna brand myself in these colors. No evident of my fingernails, they're hot pink.
I see
you
that.
you gotta have it wherever. And so I said, this is what I want. If you can do this
Mm.
for me, then I need it in a black version, a white version. I need an icon that looks something like this, but is a little different, where I can throw that on like videos and things like that. And then when I started my own jewelry line, I said, here's what I need for my jewelry line. I want it to
Mhm.
be
Pink.
close to what my author was, definitely pink. And that's how people know me. Like when I do vendor shows, I have a pink tablecloth and I have a black tablecloth, and
Mhm.
they're like, there she is. There's the pink
You
lady.
you stand out
I
with
do.
that
I mean,
color.
you have
Yeah.
to somehow set yourself apart from the rest of the pack.
Yes.
Doesn't matter where you're running in the pack. You
So,
just
okay.
have to.
Wow. You know what? I don't want to end this, but
But we
I want
have
to keep
to.
talking. But um, one last word. Last word for you? For everyone. What's your last words for our viewers?
My last words are, just keep going. Pick up the pen, find a way, and just keep going. Don't let anything derail you from giving the gift to someone else that can help them through. You don't know what they're going through. Your book may save
Mhm.
their lives. Your
Right.
story may inspire them to do something greater than they ever thought they could do. So don't discount yourself. Know that you do matter. You are worthy and you can do it. It just takes the right people and the right timing. But no matter what, do not stop.
Thank you.
You're
That
welcome.
was
Thank you for
that
having me
was
on.
oh my gosh. You don't know how I was so inspired by you. It's
Oh,
like,
thank
oh my
you.
gosh. I mean, you're so full of life, it's like, oh, I just want to listen to you over and over again. Like, okay, we can go on until when, but I'm leaving tomorrow, so I have to wrap this up. But I am uh so happy to have you as my guest, and I really thank you for being my guest today. And
Thank you.
hopefully, and not just hopefully, I believe that your story can help someone today. And that is the goal of our channel, is to
Yes.
help someone who is going through the same journey, maybe a little bit different, but you're someone who think or find yourself believing that you don't matter. Stop right there and
Mm-hmm.
tell yourself that you matter. You matter.
Yes.
And to just keep going and, live your life the way God wants you to be.
That's right. Leave your
You,
legacy.
yes, you are here for a reason, and you are here to be great.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all for today, but I really want to keep going, to be
I
honest.
know.
But
We can
I'm
talk for hours again.
yes. But anyway, what I can do is next, when your book is out, we can schedule again to,
Okay.
kind of talk about it and
Sure.
share it to anybody. Because if we can help someone, like I said, it's a pleasure to be able to serve someone who needs help.
That's
And
true.
that's it for today. And I want to thank you again, Crissie, for being my guest. And I
Thank
will
you.
see you again.
All right.
Stay tuned, everyone. If you like the interview, give us a like, subscribe in our channel.